The Democratic National Committee made such a drastic decision to reshuffle the calendar and to do it the way they did, waiting for the last second, leaving the local New Hampshire delegation in the dark. What do you think was up there?
I think that I think President Biden has never done well in New Hampshire, and that they wanted to make sure that they had a sequence that would benefit him. And I mean, I understand that, but I don't think it's good for our country, and I don't think it's good not only for our local democracy here, but the kind of moral authority of America around the globe. Have parties pick the candidate, without the involvement of the public or with as little involvement, and the optics that it's really a fixed game, I don't think is good in this country, and it's like the Soviet system. I think a lot of people think that, and that's not good for us internationally either.
So Congressman Clyburn was right. This was about avoiding embarrassment.
Yeah.
Thank
He
you.
said it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Mr. Kenny, a lot of people are confused about the tweet storm. I call it the tweet heard around the world. A couple tweets were put up in support of Roger Waters and then taken down. Do you want to give us a little explanation of why they were taken down and also your stance on Israel and Palestine?
Yeah, I tweeted that, I made the tweet applauding Roger Waters' courage in opposing the COVID mandates and the Ukraine war. I was unaware of his position on Israel. And when I learned that, I immediately took it down. My position of Israel is that I support Israel. My family has a long relationship with Israel. I support its right to exist and its right to protect its security.
And the Palestinians?
And a humane outcome and a recognition ultimately of the aspirations of the Palestinian people is important for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which are good for you right now? I mean, is it a name recognition or something else? What do you make of that?
I really don't know. I mean, I saw a CNN analysis, which I don't know whether you trust it or not, but it looks like it's a conspiracy of different causes, including name recognition. I think there's also an appetite in this country for something different, something outside of what people are being offered by essentially what is now a uniparty. I think people want something different.
You spoke to the Senate about reaching independence in New Hampshire. Where do you hope to find them? How do you hope to reach independence in New Hampshire?
Well, I think I'm already reaching independence. I mean, our polling shows that I'm doing better among independents than any of the other candidates. So I think I'm going to keep doing what we're doing, which is, talking about the war on the middle class, the warfare state and surveillance states, rebuilding our industrial base, and focusing America's wealth on building a strong economy at home, which is the best national security strategy as well.
Considering your upcoming appearance at PorkFest, a Free State Project festival, would it be fair to assume that you are reaching out specifically to the libertarian movement in New Hampshire?
I welcome support from the libertarians, and I have tremendous support in that cohort.
That the two leading insurgent candidates, you and Donald Trump, in the polls also have similar positions on the war in the Ukraine.
Well, I think we both have populist positions. And, I think when President Trump was in office, he did he laid the groundwork for the Ukraine war. So he walked away from the intermediate nuclear weapons treaty. He began integrating operations to create interoperability between NATO forces in the Ukraine, which the Russians said was a red line. They put the Aegis missile systems in Romania and Poland, and I think those were things that were mistakes that may possibly may have avoided the war.
I'm just looking at it in terms of what it reflects about how the American people feel about the war in Ukraine.
Well, I think, listen, I think a lot of my positions are populist positions that appeal to people on the left and right. And the same was true with my dad. When my father ran in '68, he got a populist coalition. He had whites, blacks, Hispanics, and basically people who had been alienated and left out of the system. And I think there's more and more Americans who feel that way today. 4 years later, most of the white, or large numbers of those whites who had voted for my father in '68, voted not for George McGovern, but for George Wallace. So, what I learned from that is that that every movement and every nation and every individual has a darker side and a lighter side, and that the easiest thing for a politician to do is to appeal to people's greed and anger and fear and xenophobia and hatred and bigotry. But those same people can oftentimes respond to a message of idealism. And so I think, there's a lot of discontent people in this country who like Donald Trump because they're angry, and they should be angry because nobody's listening to them. And he's a guy who likes to break things. And a lot of those people feel like we want somebody, because we're angry, who is going to break things. But I think that we can also appeal to the better angels and the same people by saying we're going to create something, rather than just breaking things.
Mr. Kennedy, you could ask William Weld, the former Massachusetts governor, taking on an incumbent president is a big uphill task. Are you going to have the resources to effectively campaign against Joe Biden?
Yeah, we will have the resources.
Is there anything you can share on how things are going?
No, but I think we have to do our filing. And Dennis, when do we do our financial filing? I think at the end of June.
Yeah.
We'll do our first financial filing, but we're happy with the fundraising.
And down the road, if this eventually is unsuccessful and Joe Biden is renominated by the Democrats as their standard bearer in 2024, will you be supporting him in the general election next year?
I expect to be nominated, and I don't have a plan B.
What's your biggest objection to Joe Biden's first term?
The biggest objection, I think, I have two big objections. One, inviting neocons in to engage in a very belligerent and destructive foreign policy, and then inviting Wall Street in to governor to craft our domestic policies, which leave out virtually all of the middle class.
Mr. Kennedy, recently on an interview, you said that your uncle has more streets named after him in Latin America than any other president that's held office. What is your position on Cuba? Are you willing to get rid of the blockade on day one?
Yes.
End the blockade completely?
Yes. Yeah, the blockade has kept the Castro brothers in office for 60 years. And it's not good for the Cuban people, and it's not good for democracy. It's not good for the view of America anywhere in the world. And, we need to change. We need to change the policy. What we've been doing has not been working.
Yeah. Thank you.
President Biden's age is a legitimate question that voters should ask. Do you think that President Biden has the mental and physical skills he needs to conduct the job as president for 4 more years?
I'm going to let other people answer that. I think all of you guys and the American public can make a judgment about that as well as I can.
Has he been a good president so far?
I don't think. I don't think so. In my view, I think the war was a huge mistake for our country. I think we should have stayed out of it. I think we could have settled. I think we pressured the Ukraine into that war. And and that's not excusing Vladimir Putin, who invaded illegally the Ukraine in a brutal invasion. But I think we have to look at the actions that we took to provoke those actions, and that we had opportunities to do something different.